When you think of Rafael Nadal, what comes to mind? For most of us, he wasn't just another tennis player. He was a force of nature, a guy who completely redefined what was possible in the game. Today, we're going to break down the anatomy of this absolute legend. So it really makes you wonder, how is a legend like that actually built? Is it just pure raw talent, or is it something more? Something forged in the fire of discipline and struggle. And to get to the bottom of it, we're going to trace Rafa's journey from his really unique upbringing in Mallorca, all the way to the legacy he's building today, way beyond the court. To really understand the champion, you have to go back. You have to understand where he came from. Our story starts in his hometown of Manacor, Mallorca, where the blueprint for this incredible athlete was meticulously drawn up. Rafa's path was pretty much set from the get-go. I mean, he picked up a racket at just 4 years old, and under the guidance of his uncle, the famous Tony Nadal, he went pro at 15. 15! You could already see all the raw materials of a future champion. Now, his uncle's coaching style, well, it was unconventional to say the least. Tony Nadal actually called it the pedagogy of suffering. Think about that. He would deliberately make Rafa train on terrible courts with old, worn-out tennis balls. Why? To build a mindset of radical self-reliance. Excuses just weren't part of the vocabulary. And that's what forged the mental fortress that became his greatest weapon. And then his uncle made a decision that was a complete game changer. You see, Rafa was naturally right-handed, but Uncle Tony rewired him to play as a lefty. This was an absolute stroke of strategic genius. That left-handed forehand, packed with this crazy revolutionary topspin, became a relentless weapon against the backhands of his right-handed opponents. It was a tactical move that literally shaped his entire career. But at 12, Nadal hit a classic crossroads. He was also a seriously gifted football player, good enough that a pro career was a real possibility. At the same time, he was a rising tennis champion. He was forced to choose, and he chose the racket. A single decision that would completely alter the history of tennis. Okay, so this incredible foundation of mental toughness and technical skill was about to be unleashed on the world, and that led to just absolute, total dominance on one surface in particular, the iconic red clay of Roland Garros. So what was the secret sauce to his dominance? Well, a lot of it came down to pure physics. Get this. His unique lasso forehand generated an average of 3,200 revolutions per minute of topspin. That created this heavy, high-bouncing ball that would just explode off the clay. For his opponents, it was an unsolvable problem. And the result of that technical mastery? An almost unbelievable 81 consecutive wins on clay. 81. It's the longest winning streak on a single surface in the entire Open era, a record that will probably never, ever be broken. This period was his kingdom. From 2005 to 2014, he went on this decade-long run of just sheer dominance, winning 14 of his 22 Grand Slams. And the crown jewel? An almost unfathomable 9 French Open titles in 10 years. You know, he wasn't just the king of clay. He was clay. But anyone who dismissed him as just a clay court specialist was making a huge mistake. The 2008 Wimbledon final against his great rival, Roger Federer, has become the stuff of legend. In this grueling, nearly 5-hour epic, on Federer's favorite surface, no less, Nadal dethroned the 5-time defending champ. It was proof that he could conquer anyone, anywhere. Now, you really can't understand Nadal's career in a vacuum. It was defined by these epic rivalries with 2 other giants of the game, Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic. Together, they created what we all know as the Big Three era. I mean, these rivalries just pushed the sport to a whole new level. The matchup with Federer was like watching art. You had Nadal's brute force and relentless grit against Federer's sublime, almost effortless grace. The battle with Djokovic was totally different. It was a war of attrition. A brutal, physical chess match between 2 of the greatest athletes the sport has ever seen. But after years and years of pushing his body to the absolute limit, the injuries started to pile up. And this is where the story shifts. It becomes a story of incredible resilience, about defying the odds time and time again. And honestly, no moment captures that spirit better than the miracle in Melbourne. At the 2022 Australian Open, he was just coming back after 6 months out with a career-threatening foot injury. He gets to the final, and he's down 2 sets to love. It looked completely over. But then, he just summons something superhuman. He clawed his way back, winning a 5-set thriller to claim his 21st Grand Slam. It's truly one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. So, after a career spent defying every single limit, he finally took his final vow at the Davis Cup in October 2024. And his own reflection on his legacy, it was perfectly humble. He said he was just a kid that followed their dreams and achieved more than I ever dreamed. But for a guy like Rafa, retirement from playing wasn't the end of the story. It was just a pivot. So now let's take a look at how he's building this global empire that extends way beyond the tennis court. He has been so strategic, diversifying his brand into coaching, hospitality, health, even international sports diplomacy. It's really a masterclass in how to transform an athletic career into a multifaceted global business. And the crown jewel of this whole empire is his tennis academy. The flagship is, of course, in his home of Mallorca, but it's expanding aggressively. It's establishing a global footprint in key markets, from the Middle East all the way to a new venture in South America. But even in retirement, the physical price of his incredible career is still there. A recent major surgery on his hand is a pretty stark reminder of all the sacrifices he made. It was a necessary step, though, to ensure his quality of life and his ability to continue his work as a global ambassador for tennis. Which really leaves us with this one compelling question. After mastering resilience on the court like no one else, how will he now go on to reshape the entire business of sport? You know, his greatest legacy might not be what he did with a racket in his hand, but what he builds next. Thanks so much for watching.